Yeah, we sat down and we cried when we remembered Jerusalem. We were sick, Lord, near to dying. Oh,
Shalom, shalom, family. Welcome to another Tanakh review. My name is Zurishaddai, one of the teachers of Congregation BINAH, CHOKMAH, located in the Red Hook section of Brooklyn, New York. Giving all honor, praise, and glory to the Most High God, Yehudah, for life, food, clothing, and shelter, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Thanking the Most High God once again for my life and the life of all of you. I know that whatever we might be going through in our lives, and all of the things that might be happening in our lives, sometimes we might feel down and despaired, but always know and trust that the Most High God is the one that protects us all, and He's the one that heals. He's the one that answers all questions. All we have to do is present them to Him. Also, I'm sending out my condolences to all of the families who lost people, and the 2 plane crashes that happened in the past week. As this is taped on a Sunday, so that would have been in the past week. The airplane crash in Washington, D.C., where I believe 63 or 67 people passed away, including the 3 people in the helicopter, in the military helicopter, and also, from last that I heard, 6 people that died in the medical airplane that crashed in North Philly, in the neighborhood in North Philly. I don't know how many people died on the ground there yet, but if there were any, but our condolences go out to those family. I know in tragedies like that the families mourn, but also, friends and a nation mourns, because those are tragedies that don't happen often. And 2 plane crashes in a week, in a span or in a radius of, I would say, about 200 to 300 miles is definitely a rarity. So our heartfelt condolences go out to those families in behalf of Congregation BINAH, CHOKMAH, and also, I'm sure, from part of this show and those who participate on this show. So also to the people in California, all the people who lost, families and lost their properties, our prayers go out to you, praying that the Most High God will give you a speedy recovery, and hope that everyone, material things you could lose, but lives is something different. So material things you could rebuild. People put so many things on flash drives and have things in the cloud, so most people have stuff stored up, but a life you cannot replace. So hope for those people out there in California be able to rebuild and be able to move on with their lives as well. So without any further ado, we're going to get into the lesson of today, and we're going to get into the portion of Shemot, or in the book of Shemot, in the book of Shemot, the portion being Bo, that's I believe is the 3rd portion in the book of Shemot. So with that, I'm going to pass it on and give it to one of my teachers and one of my mentors, even Nasik Zurishaddai ben Yehudah. How are you, Nasik?
Great, Brother Shem. First of all, I'd like to give praises to the supreme intelligence of the universe, God of my forefathers, God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of Jacob, and due respect to the platform on the D.C.B channel platform, spiritual leader, Chief Prince Yeriel Ben Saskab, to the host Chief Uzael, to the Princess Chief, Kohanim, Rabbinate, Maureen, brothers and sisters, visitors to the channel. I greet you all in the tongue of my forefathers, Shalom Aleichem, and our early Shabbat Shalom. I'd like to say, Adonai Septati Takufi Avi Tila Theka, Allah down my lips, and my mouth should declare that praise. We'll be covering the Sidra of Bo, which it's a lot, and it deals with the last 3 plagues. But first, I'd like to give a thanks to I believe Brother John Day, Adon Jay from I believe in the Midwest, Chicago, for that. Helped me out with the Mount Vesuvia, the actual volcanic eruption that I was trying to think about that wiped out a people in one shot. And it also reinforced my, assertion that most people, almost everybody on this platform is very, very, astute, have an erudite in a lot of areas, and that makes my participation a lot easier because I'm sharing insights that to a very wise and understanding audience for the most part, and those might be new to our way of life. And I'm able to share insights where intelligence can recognize intelligence. So I thank all y'all for this participating and allowing yourself to be addressed by me and sharing different views in Torah. All right. And one of the areas dealing with Bo, it starts in the 10th chapter of Exodus, and it continues and ends all the way in the 13th chapter of Exodus at the 16th verse. So within those 3 sidros or portions dealing with, Shemot, Wa'era, and Bo, it covers the whole pretty much Exodus story, and in the beginning histories of Israelite people. And one of the most interesting things that it covers, that a lot of things within, as we're gonna find later on within the portion of Bo, that is always a comment, not so much even a controversy, but a comment where that some people say we should at least, the Tanakh or the scripture should start it when we actually get our first law as a people, which I will speak on in a moment. So the word Bo in Hebrew generally means to come, and in the context it's used like in the context of going. And and we had discussed the last 7 plagues, which like I said, the first one, it seems this is considered a plague amongst the rest of them, but the 7 plagues that's mentioned prior, and we begin now with 3 more plagues to come. And what's interesting is that these are the ones that finally, cause us to Pharaoh to relinquish and let us go. Now, one of the instances where we can find is that we always had this issue about the moral issues concerning hardening of Pharaoh's heart, strengthening Pharaoh's heart. And as I left before, is that when the Creator strengthened Pharaoh's heart, one of the views that I left on it out there was that so that it's not because of the plague he wants them to leave, but because he genuinely realized that they deserve their liberation to serve their God. One of the interesting things about going out, and as we look in this particular portion about our history as Israelites, is that when a people is oppressed in most societies, do you, when you make them reduced to a level of slavery, do you want them to have any kind of religious belief? And would you go and teach them a religious value. We, as we'll discover later on, is the only one that try to promote a certain type of, lack of the, better word, which I don't have a problem with the word, but the meaning itself, because law is restriction, but a religious value, concerning your servants, that be in your house. Because when you share a religious value with the people that might be serving you, you hold to a certain religious value, and you share that same religious value with the people, then not only that you expect them to be God-fearing according to your religious values that you follow, but they also expect you to be God-fearing. So could that be a problem now? Because if I have a slave and I say, he don't need to know anything about this God, he don't need to know anything about this religion, then do I really value that individual? And do I really want that individual to be a decent individual or not? So this is some of the things when we think about when we compare American slavery. At first, we weren't supposed to read and write. We weren't supposed to know, speak our language. And also, we weren't supposed to learn religion. And then when we learned religion, everything focused around the master, that enslaved us. So this is a big difference. When we share the belief system that we have as Israelites, we saying that there's a master that's over us, and that he's the true master, the true judge, and we are responsible to that master. As so the slave saying that I know there's a judge that sit above the judges. He'll see that and think that. And when they did give us religion, it's about being a better servant to your master, in that sense, out of fear, which is another topic. I don't want to go to digress too much. So normally the word Bo means to come. And and if God telling you to come, that means he's already there. That's one area to look at. And when we look at this area coming, I want to just read the beginning of the 10th chapter. And it says, and the Lord said unto Moses, go in unto Pharaoh, for I have hardened his heart and the heart of his servants, that I might show these my signs in the midst of them, and that they mayest tell in the ears, and that thou mayest tell in the ears of thy sons and of thy sons' sons, what I have wrought upon Egypt, and my signs which I have done among them, that ye may know that I am the Lord. All right. So if the Creator, the Moses know, to go in the spirit and the Pharaoh, and one of the things about this here is that Pharaoh didn't know about this God, didn't understand this God, and then also to take a people out 3 days journey just to worship and come back. And I'm just draw, and that was the what Moses asked for, 3 days into the wilderness to serve their God. Not that they're not coming back, just to go there to serve their God. We know it was a stage set for them that make the complete exodus out of Egypt, but just to say, well, I just want to go 3 days away, to serve my God. Now, when you think about that, if your God is that important, that great, and we have a bunch of gods here, right here where we at, then why is it that you didn't say, I'm invited? Why didn't your God speak to me? So a despot would think, being he considered himself a God, that how dare you, that you want my slaves to go off somewhere to worship a God when they should be worshiping me. And if it is a God and that God I'm not familiar with, that you mean to tell me I'm not, invited to that worship service? So these are some of the things you can consider going forward. And then as we go, the third verse, and Moses and Aaron went in and unto Pharaoh and said unto him, Thus said the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, how long wilt thou refuse to humble thyself before me? Let my people go, that they may serve me. Else, if ye refuse to let my people go, behold, tomorrow I will bring locusts into thy borders, and they shall cover the face of the earth, that one shall not be able to see the earth, and they shall eat the residue of the that which was escaped, which remaineth unto you from the hail, and shall eat every tree which groweth from out of the field. And thy houses shall be filled, and the houses of all thy servants, and the house of all the Egyptians, as neither thy father nor thy father's fathers have seen since the day that they were upon the earth, unto this day. And he turned and went out from Pharaoh. I want to pay close attention to this particular verse. Now, God warned them through the prophet Moses and Aaron, that this eighth plague, the plague of locusts, is about to come. And they're going to destroy, now, as we read about the hail, they destroyed the barley and the flax. But the wheat, and the spelt was not yet destroyed because it wasn't, grown. Now, at this particular time, we learn a couple things in this here area that we find out that the Creator Himself said, I gave you a break. And each plague get more and more intense. As we look, each plague become much more and more intense. When we analyze the plagues from the beginning to this point, each one get more and more devastating. So it's like the Creator not trying to destroy them all at one time. When the final plague, which we get to, was the first thing He said He would do. If you don't, Israel's my son, my firstborn. If you don't let my son go, I will slay your firstborn. That was stated in the beginning. Now, that's kind of hard for Moses to report that to Pharaoh at the very beginning. That if you don't do this, I'm threatening to kill yours. And a God that's out there 3 days away, that I don't know about, He's sending you. He didn't come Himself. I'm Pharaoh. So it brings a whole nother dynamics when you think of the human arrogancy of the mind of a guy who thinks of himself as being divine. So when we go further into this area here, all right, and let me see where I left it up. All right, so after the plague, talking about this plague of locusts, at this particular point in time, another point I want to bring out too is that if the hail destroyed the barley, and the flax, when we count to Shavuot, we count 7 weeks. All right. And that's supposed to be in the wheat harvest. So, and I'm bringing this out the stress of a particular point that we might not look at very closely. That these plagues didn't come. As soon as this one stop, you got a day or so, then the next one come. These plagues lasted and took a while between, and there was space between the plagues. So now that would contribute to a little bit of arrogancy coming from Pharaoh's part. Traditionally they say plagues like might last a week, for recovery. and it'd be about 3 weeks or more before the next one hit you. So now you got basically 6 days of drama, and then you got basically 22 days of problems coming behind that, before the next one jumps up in your face. So when we think about the Exodus and we think about the plagues that's hitting Egypt, it's not back to back to back to back to back like we would think about. All right. You say no, all right, tomorrow it's gonna happen. You say no, okay, tomorrow, next day it's gonna happen. No, it took a while. So the liberation wasn't immediate. Basically from most calculations, it took pretty much close to a year for after the plagues is hitting, a year of drama before Pharaoh let him go. So that'll give you an idea, a mindset, because we know we be looking from the barley harvest to the wheat harvest, and we count, that particular point in time. So if this is something just to, bear in mind, you can further discuss it with your, various leaders and teachers, but that takes some examination, for those that might not, just shortcut traditional views and stuff like that. So as we go further, and he turned and went out from Pharaoh's, now the 7th verse, and Pharaoh's servant said unto him, how long shall this man be a snare unto us? Let the men go, that they may serve the Lord their God. Knowest thou not yet that Egypt is destroyed? And Moses and Aaron were brought again unto Pharaoh, and he said unto them, go serve the Lord your God. But who are they that shall go? And Moses said, we will go with our young and with our old, with our sons and with our daughters, with our flocks and with our herds, we will go. For we must hold a feast unto the Lord. And he said unto them, so be the Lord with you, as I will let you go, and your little ones see that he was before your face. Not so. All right, so now we're going to read this, the 10th verse again. And he said unto them, so be the Lord with you, as I will let you go, and your little ones. See that evil is before your face. Not so. Go now, ye that are men, and serve the Lord, for that is what ye desire. And they were driven out from Pharaoh's presence. All right, so now, Pharaoh saying, that don't make sense. It don't make sense. Pharaoh's not a dummy. He's just an arrogant individual. There's a difference between being a dummy and an arrogant individual, and Pharaoh, his mindset is that of an arrogant individual. And he asked who should go. And you're going to take everybody. Now, do you think Pharaoh might have any kind of reasoning behind this? That everybody don't come to worship. Let's just take a few things, and you could further discuss it with your teachers. But just look at a few things here. When we got into the land, we got to the Lord. It says 3 times in a year, all males should appear before the Lord, but not empty-handed. And it say 3 times in the years, all the families of Israel appear before the Lord. That's one area. Just to think about that concept. Also, when we think about Pharaoh, in this area here, is that a couple of centuries ago, when Yaakov, your father, the progenitor of Israel, were dead, and not only Joseph asked permission from Pharaoh to take him back to go. They asked for permission from Pharaoh at that time to go back and take Yaakov's body to the cave of Machpelah and bury it. You're basically talking about 11-day stretch. and you wanted it, and you had an Egyptian escort with you on an 11-day stretch, and you left the little ones and your cattle and the women behind for a burial that takes a lot longer, a longer stretch. You did all that and left all them behind. Now, at this particular point in time, you mean to tell me that just for 3 days, you need everybody to go? When you didn't take everybody and everything to go to bury your father, the patriarch of your nation? That's kind of puzzling. These are some things you could think about and understand, or discuss it further. I mean, these are some of the views I like to bring out, because one of the things is that if a person's on trial, even if a person is assumed to be guilty on any particular matter, a judge, and if you have a Sanhedrin, somebody got to plead on the guy's side to see if there's any kind of reason and rhyme or good within this guy to give him, justification to a degree for his actions. So, hence, I'm bringing out points that a couple centuries ago, you left these people behind, no problem, and your wealth behind, no problem, just to go to a burial, and you had an escort there with no problem, and we prepared your father's body, no problem. Now, it's no participation coming from us, and yet you're still asking me for leave. I'm staying here and you're going there. You talking about your God threatening me, and you're threatening my economy. So you're not only threatening my life, but you're threatening, the life of my son, but you're threatening my economy. So these are some of the things that goes on that you can discuss further. Let me just move on just a little bit. And what it is, which most people don't see, is that when Pharaoh refused to let him go at first, before the plague of locusts come, that they had, his servants saying, look here, things kind of rough. If they just want to go to pray to God, that seemed reasonable. So he called them back. They call him back. So sometimes a person could be so arrogant, but he could be touched with a certain type of reason from a certain group of people. Not anybody, but it depends on who's bringing the consideration or the rebuke, so to speak. See, some people don't qualify to bring a rebuke to another individual. Not that they don't know what to say. It's them, that person themselves as an individual. It might rub the person wrong just by their appearance. These servants of Pharaoh, man, look here, Egypt is destroyed. You don't know that? That's kind of strong to say that to your leader. You can't see that. Let the people go and worship. So he called Moses back. So sometimes you got to walk away and let people think about what you just said. Let them have a huddle. And then when they come back and he states the thing about everybody leaving, I was like, oh, no. See, now it's getting ridiculous. It's getting ridiculous because my concept was y'all want to go. The men are going to go. We don't have a bunch of women worshiping and doing a whole lot of stuff. And even in Egypt, they had female goddesses and all, and male gods, and stuff like that they worship. It was more of a priest thing, a man's thing. So we just got to understand those different concepts that goes on there, all right, in that area. So let me just move on just a little bit more. And the Lord said to Moses, stretch out the hand over the land of Egypt for the locusts, that they may come up upon the land of Egypt and eat every herb of the land, even all that the hail had left. And Moses stretched forth his rod over the land of Egypt, and the Lord brought an east wind upon the land, all that day and all that other night. And when it was morning, the east wind brought the locusts, and the locusts went up over all the land of Egypt, and rested in all the borders of Egypt. Very grievous were they. Before them there were no such locusts as they, neither after them shall be such. For they covered the face of the whole earth, so that the land was darkened. And they did eat every herb of the land, and all the fruit of the trees, which the hail had left. And there remained not any green thing, either tree or herb of the field, through all the land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron in haste, and he said, I have sinned against the Lord your God and against you. Now therefore forgive, I pray thee, my sin only this once, and entreat the Lord your God, that he may take away from me this debt only. Just the first time when Moses came back, gave him a second chance to consider, because of his service, he listened to his servants. This is the first time Pharaoh admit that he sinned, right out straight, because and he said, just forgive me, just this one more time. That's one time, this one time, forgive me. So the thing is he genuine? And you say, well, is it the plague that doing it to make him genuine, or a reasonable request? That he realized that he's wrong, because before he said, that God is righteous, when it came down to the hell, but me and my people, God is righteous and I, and my people are wicked, So depends on how you phrase that and word it, the verbiage with that, the pauses here and there. He will include himself with God, and the people is wicked. It was the people that made me do it, almost like Saul. But when it came down to this particular plague, he completely confessed that he had sinned not only against the God, but against Moses himself. Now, that could take a lot more, elaboration for discussion. But 18th verse, and it said, and he went out from Pharaoh, and he went out from Pharaoh and entreated the Lord, and the Lord turned an exceeding strong west wind, which took up the locusts and drove them into the sea, Red Sea, Yom Su in Hebrew. There remained not one locust in all the borders of Egypt, but the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he did not let the children of Israel go. All right. So now, that's when he find when the Lord actually doing, harden his heart, make him strong, because it was a genuine that you say you sin. A lot of people come into different Yom Kippur or apologize, and they don't be genuine when they apology. They just apologize because of other pressure, outside pressure. Well, I gotta say I'm sorry right now. Too many people, looking at me. So I gotta say I'm sorry. I gotta be apologetic because everybody's standing against me. That's not a genuine apology. If a genuine apology is if no one is standing against you and you still feel that you're wrong and you apologize. That's a genuine apology. No one's standing against you and you apologize. So when we come, before Yom Kippur, we don't look to God to forgive us because we haven't done anything and that we fear what he's going to do to us in the future. We're supposed to be apologetic because we genuinely realize that we wasn't all he meant for us to be, and we are regretful because of, failing God. That's what we become regretful for on Yom Kippur, and that's what we become more apologetic for. But so much for that. But let's move on. And it says, and the Lord said unto Moses, stretch out thy hands towards heaven, that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, even darkness which may be felt. And Moses stretched forth his hand towards heaven, and there was thick darkness in all the land of Egypt 3 days. They saw not one another neither rose any from his place for 3 days. But all the children of Israel had light in their dwellings. I'm going to stop there just for a moment. As I said in the past, God warned Pharaoh on 2 plagues. The 3rd plague just happened. Bam. All right. Then he goes into, the next 2 plagues, warning. Then the 6th plague just happened. Boom. Then he gave warning on the 7th and 8th plague. The 9th plague just happened. Boom. All right. And that's usually the pattern. So he warned you 2 times, and then he just said, okay, he hit you up with a plague. All right. And that's been the pattern of the plagues that we read about here in this particular portion. But what most people find interesting is that they mention the word dog 3 days twice. So is a traditional view in reference to how long it was actually dark. We know normally get dark at night, but in the daytime, dark 3 days. Are you just saying it's a 24-hour day? It's a traditional comment on it, but I just like you to think about it and maybe discuss it. Because getting dark at night is one thing. And then the level of darkness, in a sense, the level of darkness that it talks about, is that one, it just, dark, period. And then the next one, it goes into the area that is thick darkness, that, something that that could be felt. All right. Even darkness which may be felt. All right. So now there's 2 levels of darkness that's being explained here. And one is just no light. Now, we think of darkness as the absence of light, but darkness is completely different. It's not the absence of light itself. Darkness is just what it is. It's darkness. And what people think of Genesis, God called, the light from the darkness. But when we read in the book of Isaiah, in the prophecy, he said, I created, light and I created darkness. So darkness is a creation itself, independent of light being created. So darkness is not considered by scripture as an absence of light. Darkness is actually something of a whole nother thing beyond our imagination. So I always bring out that we know what it is to be dark. We know what it is to have light. But do we can conceive possibly when there's neither darkness nor light? What would that look like? We can't even conceive of anything like that. When we talk about primordial darkness, we can't even conceive of things like that. And we know in Genesis, it talk about, in the beginning. And we always translate in the beginning, but in the beginning, and then we read in the Proverbs that wisdom, was here before the foundation of the world was even laid, So and wisdom was here, and that's one of God's creation. And wisdom said, I'm one of his works of old. Then this God, we can't conceive of what our God is. And therefore, Genesis don't start off with trying to describe God and describes his works. When we talk about the name of God, and we use the tetragrammaton, you notice that names are actually, they confine and contain things. All right. So that's why a noun is a name of a person, place, or thing. You categorize it and it's limited right there. But when we talk about the creator, they're saying, Hiwa, and just backwards of the tetragrammaton, for us, the Yod-Heh Wah-Heh, they, it's a verb. And it's an action verb. It's a verb that means God is about constantly moving and changing and and working. So when we think about the all these other appellations that we call the Creator, it's nothing compared to what He told Moses, that I will be that I will be, and then and it's a Yehudah YAH, and so when he talk about that, that means I'm about action. I'm constantly making things. I'm always on the move. So you can't keep up with me. You can't keep up with me. I'm a God that works. Even though when you think I'm not working, I'm working. And that's the difference between understanding the concept of our God and understand the name of a God. It's not a name like a name where you just have a noun. You don't call a guy and say, "Hey, yo, runner, come here." That's not his name. You know, hammerer. A hammer. Now hammer become a name these days because you find a guy called him Hammer, but hammer is actually a verb. And then hammer could also be an instrument these days in time. So the thing is that when we talk about the God of, that created the heavens and earth and all that there is, then we talk about his name being a verb. Let me just move on just a little bit more. There's only about 105 verses in this thing, so I should be able to finish this real quickly. So now when we think about the darkness here, can you imagine darkness that you could feel in that area? And it said Israel had lights, in their dwellings, not in the land of Goshen per se. Though we would say in the land of Goshen was light. And that says whatever the Israelite happened to be about, wherever he happened to be moving about, it was a light there for him, not for the Egyptians. So can you imagine some people like in another dimension, so to speak, and you still move around them, almost like one of them sci-fi movies. So this is the difference. And then discuss amongst each other, what do it mean in all their dwellings, and why was that? So now I heard as we get into the last plague, in the institution of the Passover. I just want to make sure I get to that before the end. That all Israelites didn't comply with the Passover offering, and ritual and law. But so I'm gonna visit that. But I differ with people that say that they all didn't comply. And let me just move on. But I'll get back to that in a moment. All right. So it said, all right, 24th verse. And Pharaoh called unto Moses and said, Go ye serve the Lord, only let your flocks and your herds be stayed, let your little ones also go with you. And Moses said, Thou must also give into our hands sacrifices and burnt offerings, that we may sacrifice unto the Lord our God. Our cattle also shall go with us. There shall not a hoof be left behind, for thereof must we take to serve the Lord our God, and we know not with what we must serve the Lord until we come thither. But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and would not let them go. And Pharaoh said unto him, Get thee from me, take heed to thyself, see my face no more, for in the day thou seest my face, thou shalt die. And Moses said, Thou hast spoken well, I will see thy face again no more. All right. It's true or not, we don't know. Did they see his face, Pharaoh's face again or not? But this is Moses the prophet and the man of God that's actually speaking right now. And Pharaoh wanted some security. He lost a lot of stuff already. Lost a lot of cattle, lost a lot of crops and everything. All right, let everybody go. And then Moses, remember this key point. He said, you must give up something for us as well. So that's a key point to remember, that you must give up something for the worship service that you're not even going to attend. That's something, right? But there's a lot of people that support causes that they never show up to, but they actually support it from a distance. So that's nothing new here. And when we go 11th chapter, and I'm going to try to read these here pretty fast. And the Lord said to Moses, yet one more plague will I bring upon Pharaoh and upon Egypt. Afterwards he will let you go hence. When he shall let you go, he shall surely thrust you out hence altogether. Speak now in the ears of the people, and let them ask every man his neighbor, and every woman her neighbor, jewels of silver, jewels of gold. And the Lord gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians. Moreover, the man Moses was very great in the land of Egypt, in the sight of Pharaoh's servants, and in the sight of the people. So now, if we go back earlier, we find that we say ask. The word ask, that's used there. The show us is Sheen, Aleph, Lamed, Shoel, Sha'al, which he asked. There's another word, which Lawah, which is Lamed, Wah, Hey, which also means to borrow. All right. So the word ask, and so some books might translate borrow, and we can think of the English translation of borrowing in this sense. But when we think about the Hebrew, the context, Joel can mean borrowing, and it also can mean just asking. So it depends on the actual context. I don't have time to really focus on the context here, but you could check maybe Exodus 20 something chapter in reference to that 22, I believe, offhand, where you can find the word and see what context is used, and sometimes it means just purely asking. So and so the thing is, when we think of only borrow, that means we're gonna give it back. In the beginning, and I'm just gonna set up some stages for you to discuss, amongst your, various colleagues or teachers, is that in the beginning, it wasn't told that we're gonna leave Egypt, to Pharaoh. It was just told that we're going to worship, and that's it. God told him to say 3 days journey into the wilderness, worship me on this mountain. But he also told Moses that, earlier, that he was going to bring them to the land of their fathers, the land of the Canaanites. He also told them that, and described as the land that flowed with milk and honey, which is the first time that phrase was ever used in reference to that, because, throughout all the patriarchs' period of time, if it flowed with milk and honey, it seems strange when famines was always hitting that thing, 3 times. Hit it in Abraham's time, it hit it in Isaac's time, it hit it in Jacob's time. So now to say, okay, this land is not what your ancestors thought of it to be, or seen it to be, or experienced it to be, but it's a land that flows with milk and honey. So and use that as a great allurance. Now, just looking back at the plague of locusts, God, caused a wind to blow, so he sent them back to east wind, brought them in, and west wind took them out, and it took them out into the sea. But certain locusts, as far as we could eat certain types of locusts, according to the scriptures. So even in that plague of locusts destroying them, you figure some people would use a net, to catch some of them. In the plague of darkness, you figure after 3 days of contemplating and thinking, I can't move. I can actually feel this darkness. This ain't like darkness in it. It's like something that got me paralyzed, where I can't stand up. I can't sit, whatever position I'm in, that's where I'm at. So imagine human necessities of human body, what you got to do from every day. Can you imagine how that is? That you stuck and paralyzed, where you can't really feed yourself or eat yourself for a period of time. what kind of mess you could be in like that. And still, Pharaoh, didn't learn anything from that. And the people didn't learn anything from that as well. So, but God told him, ask. And so, why would Moses be so famous and favored amongst the Egyptians? Simply, he saved them by telling those that believe in God, you can save some of your cattle, and you can save some of your life. And also that when we talk about some of the servants, of Pharaoh and stuff like that, they had a consideration, but then the consideration wasn't genuine. So I could respect you, but I might not answer to you, and that, and that's a big difference, because you could respect a person, but not consider yourself answering to that particular person. So when we talk about the borrow, and we noticed also, I want to bring out this other point while I'm speaking on it, is that you have, in the early part, I said about borrowed silver and gold, told the women to borrow it and put it on their children. And I want to bring this out about dress code, because amongst certain communities, we have this issue about it doesn't matter what you wear, just come as you are. Well, some people may come as you are, but you never should stay as you are, first time, because if you appear and this is the day that you appear before the King of heaven and earth, then you should want to make a certain type of impression, a respectable impression. And one of the things is this: when it was talking earlier about making sure you dress up your children, you say, well, why would you say get the gold and the silver and the clothes and put them on your children? And I remember when I was a young guy, that parents would do a lot for their children and deny themselves. And this, I'm going to just share some examples, and I'm sure some people that's on that might be listening to the video could verify what I'm saying, and actually, grew through that, growing through that type of time frame, is that when days like Easter came, well, most parents, they go to church all the time, and some of them wasn't going to church that day. But if they had a little kid, they say, oh, I got to get them some clothes for Easter. So they get dressed up, and they might walk down the street with it, especially if it's a real young little kid, and he got on a brand new suit, or she got a brand new dress on, looking like they're going to a ward ball and stuff like that. And the parents might be walking with their house coat on. I mean, not house coat, but walking down the street with their apron or a pair of jeans or something like that there, or just a regular dress. Walking around with just letting the kids come out, especially if the day is nice and sunny, and then walk down the street and walk around a couple of places and stuff like that there, and they're just doing anything, but they get their kids dressed up. Another thing, parents would get the kids dressed up for a graduation, and they say, okay, my son or my daughter's getting graduated. They're going to graduate. Not like today where you just put that gown on and you might have, shorts underneath, you might have, jeans with holes in it underneath and all that kind of stuff. You might have all kind of little sneakers and stuff. You just got a gown and a hat. You actually, they'll buy you or make sure they come up with a nice suit for graduation. And they might not have nothing new, really, elegant for themselves, but they will come to the graduation and dress the best they can. But your stuff gonna be new. Your shoes gonna be new. If it ain't new, it's gonna be polished, been shined up. The girls, their hair gonna be done up and everything. Even though they couldn't afford to get theirs done, they get yours done and everything like that. And they looking real pristine. And that's when a parent take pride, in saying, I'm raising my children. I want my children to look presentable. If I can't afford to look presentable, I want my child to look presentable. So God looking out for the future, because that's your future there. to say, am my responsibility, am I taking care of my future, and setting an example. So when people did that coming up, in my time, these days is a different story. These days, a whole different story. But back then, that was the pride that people had, and that's some of the things that we need to consider and learn from scriptures here. All right, so let's deal with this last plague right quick, and it says that in the fourth verse, and Moses said thus. And Moses said, "Thus said the Lord, about midnight I will go into the midst of Egypt, and all the firstborn in the land of Egypt shall die, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sitteth upon his throne, even unto the firstborn of the maidservant that is behind the mill, and all the firstborn of cattle. And there shall be a great cry throughout all the land of Egypt, such as there have been none like it, nor shall it be like it any more. But against any of the children of Israel shall not a dog wet his tongue, against man or beast, that ye may know how that the Lord does put a difference between the Egyptians and Israel. And all these thy servants shall come down unto me and bow down unto me, saying, Get thee out, and all the people that follow thee. And after that I will go out. And he went out from Pharaoh in hot anger. All right. Of course, Pharaoh threatened him with a death sentence. But he said, I got to say this last thing because I got to follow the pattern of warnings, So I'm on my way out, but I got to say this here because, this one's going to be the tragic one. This the serious one. And Moses upset because so many people are going to die. Now, I heard also, and I'd like to address this issue too. Some people say, well, why didn't Pharaoh die? Since I'm sure he might have been firstborn, and the thing is, some people use the argument about that God left him around so he could endure, but he also left his people around too to endure to see what go on at the time. So what's the difference here? This chapter in this chapter here, it tell you straight up. I mean, very very distinctly, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sitteth upon the throne, and that's in the 5th verse. That means that when Pharaoh have a son, you might have been I'm a firstborn, but now I'm a father, so I got firstborn son. So I'm no longer considered the firstborn that would be in that area there because I have a firstborn. My father made transition, so my father made transition. I'm no longer a son directly. I'm actually a father directly. My father made transition. So my firstborn, that I have, that's the one would have been in jeopardy. Pharaoh, sitting there, though he might have been a firstborn, his son, he have a son now. So Pharaoh's no longer the son of a firstborn. He's a father that has a firstborn. And that's why he's going to be affected by this very plague. So it's just one going per household. Not everybody. I'm a firstborn, and my son's a firstborn, and my son got a firstborn, and all three of the firstborns going one time in one house. It wasn't that kind of. God didn't design the plague for that, and that and plus God doing this the destruction. He gonna actually do the slaying. So God, showing mercy on 1,000 of them. So God is not moving like that. And I just want to bring that out because those questions I hear from time to time that, once you're an actual father, your father made transition, no longer falls in the category of a firstborn. You fall in the category of a father. If you have a firstborn child, that's then that's the one that will be in the area. All right, so now as we go, I'm just going to try to get through this here. I only got a few more minutes. All right. All right. So the 9th verse and the same 11th chapter. And the Lord said to Moses, Pharaoh will not hearken unto you, that my wonders may be multiplied in the land of Egypt. And Moses and Aaron did all these wonders before Pharaoh, and the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he did not let the children of Israel go out of his land. All right. God telling Moses, he told him the job's going to be hard. And he's going to tell him this was going to happen. And he also, Pharaoh could have gave God the glory first, but how are you going to send you away? And all right. And the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt. This month, all right, shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, in the 10th day of this month, they shall take to them every man a lamb, according to their father's houses, a lamb for a household. And if the household be too little for a lamb, then shall he and his neighbor next unto his house take one according to the number of souls. According to every man's eating, ye shall make your account for the land. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. You shall take it from the sheep or from the goats, and you shall keep it unto the 14th day of the same month. And the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it at dusk. And they shall take the blood and put it on the 2 side posts on the lintels upon the houses wherein they shall eat it. And they shall eat the flesh in that night, roasted with fire, and unleavened bread, and bitter herbs shall they eat it. Eat not of it raw, nor sodden it or with water, but roasted with fire, its head with its legs, and with its inwards thereof. And you shall let nothing of it remain until the morning, but that which remaineth of it until the morning you shall burn with fire. And thus shall you eat it, with your loins girded, your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand. And you shall eat it in haste. It is the Lord's Passover. For I will go through the land of Egypt in the night, and will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast. And against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment. I am the Lord. And the blood shall be to you for a token upon the houses where ye are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you, and there shall no plague be upon you to destroy you, when I smite the land of Egypt. And Mashkita, which is like a destroyer or slaughterer. And this day shall be unto you for a memorial, and shall keep it a feast of the Lord throughout your generations. You shall keep it a feast by an ordinance forever. 7 days shall ye eat unleavened bread. Howbeit, the first day you shall put away leaven out of your houses, and whosoever eateth the leavened bread from the first day until the 7th day, that soul shall be cut off from Israel. And it shall, and in the first day there shall be a holy convocation, and the 7th day a holy convocation. No manner of work shall be done in them, save that which every man must eat, that only may be done for you by you. And you shall observe the feast of unleavened bread, for in this same day I have brought you your hosts out of the land of Egypt. Therefore shall you observe this day throughout your generations, by an ordinance forever. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month, at evening, you shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month at evening. 7 days shall there be no leaven found in your houses, for whosoever eateth that which is leavened, that soul shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether he be a sojourner or one that is born in the land. You shall eat nothing leavened. In all your habitation you shall eat unleavened bread. All right. And let me just read this here so I can finish it out and then let's talk about it. Then Moses called for the elders, called for all the elders of Israel, and said unto them, draw out and take you lambs according to your families, and kill the Passover lamb. And ye shall take a bunch of hyssop and dip it in blood that is in the basin, and strike the lintels of the 2 side posts with blood that is in the basin. And none of you shall go out of the door of his house until the morning. For the Lord will pass through to smite the Egyptians. And when he seeth the blood upon the lintels and on the 2 side posts, the Lord will pass over the door and will not suffer the destroyer to come in unto your houses and so smite you. And ye shall observe this thing as an ordinance to thee and to thy sons forever. All right. So I'm gonna stop right there in that part, but I want to and I'm gonna skip over just a little bit. But one of the things I like to bring out is that when we think about this particular, we got a law that's given. The first law is a national given about a Rosh Kodesh, Kodesh Kodesh, the sanctification of the month. All right. So now it didn't say a calendar didn't exist, but they said this time would be a calendar, the sanctification of this month, and we're not given any details at this time about how do we recognize it. All we're saying it told Moses there, this month shall be beginning of months for you. This the month you're supposed to sanctify. All right, and beginning of months for you. But we told on the 10th day, we're given details what to do on the 10th day concerning the Passover. And we're given details about the 14th day. We're given the procedure about how to cook our meal. And can you imagine now? I said that the sigil is called Bo, representing 3. But then let's look at the letter Bait. Bait means represent a house. Now, the letter Aleph usually, hieroglyphically would represent an ox. All right. So instead of an ox, we're dealing with now a lamb or a ram. But basically, when we talk about springtime, we think about, if we talk about, astrological thing, you talk about the ram or the lamb. So what are some of the things you could, to develop and look at considering this particular point in time? One of the things is that we find, what we find here in this particular area here is that we find that the Creator, himself telling us not only how to fix out and how to cook, but anybody that been in a barbecue. I've been in many barbecues and roasted, outside, and even standing there, the smoke get all up in your skin and your clothes and everything like that. And sometimes it lasts, when you wash it, it still lasts. You can't just hang it up. When you wash it, you still get that smoke smell. Sometimes the smoke smell still be in your nostrils for a while, a day after. So imagine now, those who see a lot of smoke and barbecue, you are fixing this, slaughtering this inside your house. You're not doing this outside your house. You're actually doing it in your quarters where you dwell at. So you're slaughtering the lamb. You have them there for 4 days. 4 days, 3 days, you're getting ready for the 4th day, from the 10th of the month, and be ready to slay them, on the 14th day of the month. So you got them all that time in this spot, and we ain't talking about you have a mansion type size house, and you got a barbecue pit where you tie them up, or put them on a stick, and most times they said, put them in a fetal position. Can you imagine if it was an ox, how much meat would be wasted, how big it would be? So the lamb itself would be, what we find later on, be the first year without blemish and everything, that it's pretty small, but you need enough people to eat it, a lamb. And one of the things that we find here is that rules that's coming later on, which I'm gonna speak on. I know I ain't gonna get the time to finish it this time, and I don't want to, do injustice. So I'm gonna have to finish this here. The next time I get a chance to speak, and I'm gonna elaborate a lot more on when Pesach comes itself, in reference to the Haggadah and the different things in the Haggadah in relationship to these two chapters, the 12th and the 13th chapter. So, but one of the things I would focus on now is that, can you imagine, you got all this smoke in your house, you got the blood on the outside, and you got a certain type of, branch, leaf that, that actually, which translated, is hyssop, that you're actually using to sprinkle with. So it's telling you what to sprinkle. Don't use a rag, don't use your hands, use that. We get all that, but what we fail to get here is how to recognize a Rosh Kodesh. We don't get that information here. And yet that is so important, because everything now, we're dealing with a lunar calendar, but we got to also recognize a solar year, because later on we find that things got to be within a season. Other nations that have a lunar calendar, their particular holy days which come in all different seasons. So we had that, and we have like I said, and also have different times of the year that they like to Shabbat, which is in the year of planting trees. But that's another thing I can get to another time. But one of the things we're looking at is this: that you have a Rosh Kodesh, you don't have you don't have a standard. We don't have a standardized calendar at this time, nothing standard. And we, for over almost a couple thousand years, almost a couple thousand, almost almost close to 1,000+ years, we didn't have a standard calendar. And yet, that means we did our cycle month by month. And one of the things that we would add an extra month, not at the at the beginning of the year, but at the end of the year. You notice the second Adar always come in, after the 12th month, counting from the Exodus. But Yom Teruah, or some people call Rosh Hashanah, is in the 7th month. And yet we count a different type of year starting from that particular point in time. So, but we don't add anything or adjust anything until we get close to the month of Abib, or the Nisan as they call them later on, the month of Abib. All right, we add an extra month to harmonize, to make sure we stay in sync with the solar year, and make sure that the holy days are within season. And without a calendar being formalized and systemized and written out, we didn't have all the controversy we have today. Once calendars was formalized, we didn't have that kind of controversy. We're looking for witnesses, and don't tell you that we only learn from an oral interpretation how we recognize a Rosh Kodesh. Only from oral interpretation. Nowhere in the Tanakh it tells us how we can recognize when it's a Rosh Kodesh. And yet we didn't have a problem to that degree with dates and about observance, about major Shalosh Regalim. We didn't have a problem with that through all those years. Even when they wanted to postpone a Pesach, such as King Hezekiah, he knew that wasn't the month for it, but yet he recognized that the conditions warranted, and he took counsel with that. And it was just for that one time, not for all times. So I'm saying that we don't have information given here. So when people decide to have a formalized calendar on the hill of the second, it already was calculated, because we was getting so far removed from the actual standardized temple service and everything like that, and communications wasn't the way it is today. So therefore, they made it where people could participate. Not taking into account date lines, locations. Everything was based on for Israel, pretty much, in the land of Israel. So with that being said, we got to realize that we got two things that's instituted here. We get the law, of a time. Only a free person can mark time for themselves. A slave never had time of his own. It's what the master dictate. That's the master's time. But the slave never have time. So part of our liberation is that we able to consider and mark time for ourselves. That's an actual area of freedom. Also, before I don't want to get into the last part now, because I want to make sure I try to elaborate on some more stuff in reference to this here. So I'm gonna stop here. Let me see where I'm at. And I'm gonna focus on the last few verses in the 13th chapter. Last few verses in the 12th. So I'm gonna pick up next week. All right. Well, let me just finish this last thing up to this. I can pick it up to 29th verse. All right. All right. And so let me see. 24th verse. I'm picking up 24th and the 12th, and then I'm gonna stop at the 28th. And you shall observe this thing for an ordinance to thee and to thy sons forever. And it shall come to pass when you come into the land which the Lord thy God give you, according as he hath promised, that you shall keep this service. And it shall come to pass when your children shall say unto you, what mean ye this service? That ye shall say, is the sacrifice of the Lord's Passover, for that he passed over the houses of the children of Israel in Egypt, when he smote the Egyptians and delivered our houses, and the people bowed their head and worshiped. And the children of Israel went and did so, as the Lord had commanded Moses and Aaron, so did they. That's clear that everybody that was alive, that was an Israelite. Everyone that was an Israelite that was alive. Now I say that again. All right. So that's why I'm gonna stop there. They comply with this. So that means that for some people that might think you had Israelites they wouldn't do it. Everybody, even the so-called naysayers, the problem guys like Dathan and Korah, is obviously they did that stuff. So every Israelite complied with that particular law. And that's why some comments is that during the plague of darkness, any Israelite that wasn't going to be on board, they died during that time. But we don't know. That's just a commentary from other areas. But I just wanted to make sure that you know that when it came to that particular night, that every Israelite that was alive complied, bar none. And then there's more I want to speak on. We're going to get to it next week. So I hope you got something out of what I said. And I'll be picking up next week at the 12th verse, the 29th chapter. 12th chapter, 29th verse, and then conclude that and run into Bishalach, in that area there. So any mistakes from my own, I hope you got some out of it. And then we talk about, you find some different areas in there about the Passover God, about three children enumerated in this particular sidra. Talk about the Rasha, which is the wicked one, the simple one, the Tom, and the one that's too young to ask. But don't talk about the wise son in this particular Parasha here. So we get hints of it, and you can find different laws that come up there, rabbinic laws that they do today that they extrapolate from there, which I'll speak on more in the next time. So with that, I hope you, and then also my condolences to all those that lost loved ones throughout the previous time, and may God comfort you and your family with all the other mourners of Zion, Jerusalem. And say amen. And any mistakes by my own, with that, I say Shalom Aleichem and early Shabbat Shalom.
Hallelujah, hallelujah. Torah Nasik, and to everyone out there, Please don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. And sometimes when you don't see the stream comes up at a regular time, which is on Shabbat evening, sometimes it's human error. I post it for, instead of in the evening, I post it for in the morning. So the video will always be there. You just got to search through the channel and look for the latest video of what will be up there. You could, and it'll probably be on from early in the morning. If you see that it doesn't pop up at a regular time or you don't have a notification for the video. That's why it's important to, when you subscribe, to hit the notification bell, because that will indicate to you when the video is popping up. You will see the title, Nasik Zurishaddai, and even if I make a mistake and post it for the morning, you at least know that the video is there for you to watch and be able to make comments, leave comments below, and all of those things. So thank you all for joining us. May the Most High, Creator of heaven and earth, continue to bless, keep, and protect each and every one of you. Shalom, shalom. Hallelujah.
Let's get knowledge, wisdom, understanding. We'll do our standing. All praises to the Most High, His laws and commandments. The CHOKMAH BINAH here to push it through your speakers. Judgment, truth, and love should be coming from the leaders. Yeah, knowledge, wisdom, understanding. We'll do our standing. All praises to the Most High, His laws and commandments. The CHOKMAH BINAH here to push it through your speakers. Judgment, truth, and love should be coming from the leaders. Yeah.